everyone, welcome back to another Free Your Mind Friday. I'm Dr. Napasha Gettings and I'm coming to you with another very healthy message. Today I want to talk a little bit about brain development and adolescent brain health. We've covered a lot of information thus far and I want to keep the momentum going and make sure that we're all learning more about how to build better brains. So diving into this topic, I want to introduce some information that I think will be useful for everyone to be more aware of. As an adult psychiatrist and as a child and adolescent psychiatrist, I work with our youth every day. And there's a huge impact that social media is having on the emotional intelligence of our youth. So I want to spend a little time talking about that impact because June happens to be Child Awareness Month, and I'm very passionate about educating parents and our community as it relates to helping to maintain mental wellness in our child and adolescent population. So that being said, I'm sure everyone is aware that social media is growing in its use. It's estimated now that some youth spend up to 10 hours a day with screen time. And I'm sure some of you kind of have the understanding that too much screen time, too much time on social media can have negative impacts. And I want to explain to you today why. There's actually a surge right now in internet addiction. The new diagnosis of internet addiction, is growing. And it's not just affecting our youth, it's also affecting our adults. And part of why the internet can be so potentially addictive is directly linked to how our brain works. So we're going to talk today about another structure in our brain that plays a huge role in human behavior and social interaction. So we've covered the amygdala when we looked at abuse and the effects of abuse on the brain. We also covered the amygdala when we talked about anger. There's another structure in the brain that is a part of our basal forebrain, and it is known as the nucleus accumbens. This part of our brain plays a huge role in our reward circuit. So when you think about reward circuit, think about the part of your brain that is fulfilled or receives high levels of signaling when you engage in an activity that makes you feel good. Some of those common activities that we're aware of, eating, gambling. So the nucleus accumbens is the part of the brain that is strongly linked to lots of addictive behaviors. And as we learn more about social media and social media use, we've come to find out that teenagers, adolescents, adults who are engaging in high levels of social media use are creating addictive patterns. And there's actually a study that was done at UCLA Brain Mapping Center that found that the nucleus accumbens actually lights up or is activated and can be seen on brain imaging based upon a person's use of social media and viewing the number of likes that they have. So as I work with the adolescent population, it's become very apparent to me that how we rate ourselves, how we see ourselves, again going back to emotional intelligence, has kind of changed a little bit. We actually have now come to a place in society where we pass judgment on ourselves based on the number of likes that we get on the internet. And so I'm sure you can imagine that the adolescent brain is under construction, and it is highly influenced by this social media trend. So what I want everyone to understand is that social media is not necessarily something that we need to avoid, but just like everything else in life, it's something that you need to have a healthy and balanced relationship with. I have created a social media best practices guide that's available on my website, clarionconscience.com, because I want parents to be a bit more knowledgeable as to the benefits and the detriments that can be linked to social media. Now, of course, as a psychiatrist, I hear some of the worst stories, which can include young children talking to adults on the internet with no supervision. In those types of situations, I've even seen it lead to kidnapping, sex trafficking. I think that a lot of adults, because social media is not a part of what they experienced in their youth, they have not explored and educated themselves about what it is that their children are actually engaging in. Another trend that we're starting to see that I want everyone to be aware of is a rise in suicide rates. And not only suicide rates, but a term that's also known as suicide clusters, because there are so many images that our children are exposed to on social media. It's probably not hard to understand that what our children see other individuals doing has a huge impression upon them. And so we're starting to see more rates of suicides occur in clusters. This has happened in Colorado. It's also happened in other states where children's use of social media is heavily impacting their own mental health and their propensity to engage in self-harming behavior and also suicide. So I want everyone to understand that social media can be a great tool, but it also can have negative effects on our reward circuitry in the brain. It can lead to addictive behaviors. It can influence and impact suicide rates. And lastly, I want to talk a little bit about self-esteem. The years that we spend in adolescence are such crucial years, and our brain does a lot of growing at that time. It creates new connections. Our frontal lobe, which is kind of the CEO of the brain, is not fully developed yet. And so children that are going through the teenage years or the tween years, they tend to be more impulsive. They tend to be more prone to engaging in high-risk behaviors. And when you add social media to that, and you add the component of self-esteem and self-image and all of those topics that we've kind of touched on so far with discussing emotional intelligence, you have to be aware of how social media can negatively impact that. I am passionate about equipping youth with the tools necessary to create high levels of emotional intelligence. And sometimes when we as parents are not as involved in the lives of our children, or even worse, when we're not even supervising their activity on the internet, we find ourselves in a situation where we have a crisis and we had no idea that the risk was even there, which is why going into this next school year, I want more parents to equip themselves and learn more about what your children are actually doing on these social media sites. I also want adults to be aware that they are not exempt, even though as adults, our brain has already gone through this development. All adults have a nucleus accumbens. We all have a reward circuit, and social media can tap into that really quickly. And so sometimes we're not spending the time that we should be with our children because we ourselves have developed internet addictive behaviors. So I'm here to encourage strong family relationships and time spent with our family members. That is vital to ensuring health and wellness and balance in your life. Anything that you can identify, too much of it can be a very bad thing. And social media obviously is not exempt. One study has actually shown that just the act of comparing and having access to this huge pool of monitoring other people's videos, pictures, etc., can have a huge blow to self-esteem. I'm sure you all are also aware of the role that bullying has taken in the use of social media and being able to hide behind these avatars and these screen names where the bully may not even be identifiable. We have a new onset of many issues that are related to social media use. And as a parent myself, I believe that it is our duty to make sure that we are keeping up with these new developments, that we are not avoiding talking to our children about the dangers on the internet. Every day in the clinic, I hear a new story, sometimes, very tragic, about a situation that has developed with the use of the internet. So it doesn't just stop at bullying. It doesn't just stop at helping our children maintain healthy self-esteem. It actually plays a huge role in safety and overall mental wellness. So I want to continue to have these conversations. If you've never visited clarionconscious.com, if this is the first Free Your Mind Friday that you've watched, please do go visit my website and check out other videos. I'm here every week to bring a healthy message. Go read more about the nucleus accumbens and the reward circuitry of the brain, how it's linked to addiction. The more we know about how our brain works, the better equipped we will be to take care of it. Knowledge is power. And we come from a time where talking about brain health and mental health has been so stigmatized that we're not even open to receiving information a lot of the time. And I'm here to help end that stigma. I'm here to help normalize brain health and mental wellness. Please make sure that you follow me on social media for healthy messages, for empowering messages. Natasha T. Gettings, MD on Instagram and Twitter. Make sure that you spread this message with others. And lastly, make sure that you check out the social media best practices guide on clarionconscious.com. I'll be back here next Friday. Thank you and be well.